with that.
That's good. Thank you.
So I'm now recording.
Great. Thank you.
Ian, you're now in EdInfo.
Great. Thank you.
Okay. So how shall we proceed? Your questions?
EdInfo. Great. Thank you.
I sent both you, Jim and Steve, the same document. Stephen, yours had a few more questions because after I listened through the meeting that we had the other day, someone said Jim was on holidays for a week. So I'm like, oh, that's why I thought you may still be on holidays, Jim. But so I've sent that through. So I can quickly email Ian.
Yeah, I've got that up on my other screen. I can see your questions.
Now, is that
if they go through, I haven't seen it yet.
Is this a good time to go through those? They don't even necessarily the most important questions that we should be asking. I'm not entirely sure, but like it's like there's known knowns and known unknowns, and you're not sure what's super important. Let me see.
I think it gives a sense of direction.
While you're forwarding that,
come up through.
While you're forwarding that down to Ian, I just want to say a little bit about the arrangements that NESA have made with all the unis on placement. To me, the overriding word has been flexible. And the emphasis has been on those who are finishing this year to make sure that their placements are as least disrupted as they have to be. I've always said to the students, absolutely document every day so that this we're in, you were doing online stuff on this day with such and such a class. Make sure your documentation is absolutely up to date, because in a sense, NESA have said they would want to see any modifications we make this year to enable them to agree with our accreditation that these students are ready to be classroom ready. I can't believe that NESA are actually going to go through everybody's documentation, but nevertheless, it's a good exercise for the students to do to make sure they've got everything. And for those on their final placements, bachelor or masters, they've got to do their TPA as well. And documentation for that is the key. If they don't know what they're doing and with whom and what the student's progress is and why they've done this and what reflection they've had on that, then their TPA will be far less satisfactory. Dan, shoot.
Brilliant. Thanks, Ian. I've
got the questions now. Thank you.
Yeah, brilliant. So
I've already got answers.
Beg your pardon?
Some have already been answered. Is that right?
Correct. So I started building this up, and then Jeff was able to email me some things. So I've just kept them there.
Right. Okay. Thank you.
There as well, because I figured they might be good questions for you as well.
Yeah, that's good.
So there's these questions here. Then there are some. I've just started trying to now actually look through some of the documentation, like the Excel spreadsheets and tables that Jeff sent us. So maybe at the end, I'd just love you guys to have a quick scan over them to even help me know which ones are most important. There seems to be like different versions, and then appears to be double ups, and I can understand with COVID, just making it work. But just for Ian and I, if we have one list that we can be working off, it's going to be far better than having to copy a lot of things over.
Yeah. In the manual, typically around page 12, you've got these tables. I would argue that that is the place to start. It lasts for about 2 pages.
Yep.
And there's a potted version. The way this works is that in the end of, for example, 500B, the last box is everything that needs to be submitted. So the student has a checklist of what needs to go up to Moodle,
yep.
And those codes there refer to the appendices number in the back. And so the mentors have been directed here as well. this is what's required for 500B, this is what's required for 500C. So if you do nothing else, I would just commend these tables to you as a quick check for what's what and what is required.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
And as for the forms at the end, yes, there is a little bit of doubling up. So I would not work through every one of them, but simply regard it as a library. Oh, I need to go to Appendix P. Okay, the major professional attendance record. Mm-hmm. That one.
So what page is that on? I've just got the manual open.
It's about 12. In the master's one, it starts on page 12.
Professional experience
Bachelor is on
minor.
page 11.
Professional experience 1 and 2, is that it? Initial EXP 20.
Oh, you're in the bachelor one.
Am I? All right, okay, I'll get the one up. Seem to have the other one.
Yeah, I haven't even read the bachelor, the master's one at all. Though the version that I have, if you look in, Ian, if you look in from Jeff email to manuals, I think it's the third one down there. Is this the most updated one? It says 130519, updated with EDU 500A, hours 28th of the 1st, 20, professional experience plus clinical teaching models manual MTP MTS ED3 2019 020519. Is that the most?
I've got that one. Yep. Okay.
If you go to EdInfo, which you're now both on,
yeah.
So I'm going there now, and my feeling is, and I'm fingers crossing, that under education student page, you've got the two manuals, and they're both June 2020.
Yeah, I've got them here. They're under standards, handbooks and manuals.
Yeah.
Yep.
So there was a minor update in June this year.
Okay.
117 pages, my gosh.
Yeah. All right, let me fire away if that's okay.
Yeah, go.
So second question, it says, nowhere in the manual, as far as I can tell, a placement can be done overseas, but it can't be a final placement, and no more than 50% of placements can be done overseas in a degree. Now that's information from Jeff, but I can't see that in the manual anywhere. Should it be?
Good question. Our standard answer is that the final placement has to be in Australia.
Yes.
We do have some students studying with us in Africa, but they're never going to teach in Australia. Therefore, they're not actually getting the New South Wales bit of the accreditation.
Yeah.
So they're doing all their placements over there in Africa.
Can Ian and I just say, if someone requests to do a placement overseas, we just chat with one of you two?
Oh, send them to, they should be chatting with their program director.
Yeah.
Yeah, you won't have to deal with that. It's their program director who will organise where the placement will be and what they should be doing and which one they should be doing, because we have the big picture. That could possibly be put, that note, Dan, could possibly be put in the manual. It comes up so rarely, but it could be put in the manual. This manual sits under NESA's professional experience documentation. And that certainly is a NESA standard.
Yeah.
But to follow on from what Jim was saying, we actually have two students, because of COVID, who are breaking that rule. One is in Singapore, doing her final placement in an international Australian college, and one is in Thailand, again doing it in an international Australian school. So they've granted the fact that 50%, well, for my bachelor student, that she can do an overseas placement for her final placement. And then that put her over the rule of the 50% placement being done overseas. So I had to get back to them and say, we're being transparent. We don't want to hide anything under the carpet.
Yeah.
We are letting you know that your acceptance of that has now caused this rule to be broken. We want you to be aware of it. Is that going to still be okay? And they accepted that. So she's breaking all the rules. But COVID has done that to us.
But NESA have been absolutely bending over backwards to help us.
Sure.
I would argue we're the blue-eyed boys, and if I may give a shout out to Stephen Brinton, because the way he puts through our accreditation documentation.
Yeah, well received.
Really good.
Okay, thank you. So down to on page 11. Sorry, question 11. The second page of my questions, but I'm saying question page 11. It talks about EXP 212 week 1, week 2. How flexible? He said, Jeff said, watch out for conflicts of interest. Is that something I could add to Form C? Is just a little question. Are there any conflict of interest? E.g., is this where you've been a student or are you employed? Can I have the flexibility to add that, or do I just have to remember to ask them?
My feeling is that it comes out. I would be hesitant to put it in writing.
Okay.
Basically, the program directors know each of the students, and the placement officers has that trust with the student as well. I mean, in my time, I can count on one hand, and I would rather not add some more documentation for the sake of a very small number.
Sure.
Which we handle.
Down to the next question that's not answered, which says page 12. Teaching responsibilities all week. This sounds like we mean the student is teaching all lessons all week, but that's contrary to the statement approximately a 60% time teaching. So what it actually means is you're going to teach over the course of the 5 days, but you have to be teaching 60% of the teaching time. Is that correct?
Well, I'm sure Stephen can comment, but my struggle all along has been that different schools have different full-time loads for their teachers.
Yep.
And again, you know, something happens, there's a sports week, and you know, do you say, oh, there's all these sports events going on, and therefore the actual teaching time is now, to me, that's what happens in school. And the prac student has to simply make themselves helpful, go with the flow, and we're flexible. We don't have number of periods because the length of period is a different length in different schools. And then different grades from, you know, this stuff has got to cope with kindy through to year 12.
That's right.
It's the whole notion is that by the last week of the final placement, they've got to be working like a full-time teacher. That's, to me, the bottom line. By then, they've got to be up to stamina for preparing for managing a full-time teaching load in the last week of the last placement.
Yep. Good. So it's notional. It's indication where they should be at for the
Yeah, it's like a measuring stick. Yeah.
Yep. But no,
we don't expect the mentors, Dan, to be counting and saying, well, there's 100 minutes in the week, and you must be doing 60 minutes of it. You know, that would be a bit bizarre. So it really is notional. Yeah. Throughout the week, they should be picking up 60%, approximately 60% by that particular time. And it may be 50% one week, it may be 70% the next week, but across building up expertise and time.
Brilliant. Thank you. It says on page 12, demonstrate group management skills, including ICT and teaching. Is that, I'm presuming that's two separate things, group management skills and ICT and teaching?
Yeah.
Yep.
I mean, I've never actually, you see, there's another thing. On these forms, this is confessions of a program director for 10 years. These forms, all these ticker box things that the mentors have to fill in, they're created by NESA, EITSL, and they are the standards. And, you know, when you've got a student in front of a class, the chance that you're going to get 60% of these boxes tickable or otherwise, it would be great. So more often than not, there's a load of them which are not applicable.
It says in week 3, demonstrate group management skills, including, and it was the word including. I was like, was that something? But it means and.
Yeah, but it's not realistic, frankly, to expect that every lesson we can tick off demonstration of ICT.
That's right.
But overall, if they can, by the end of their placement, they can show that they've not managed a classroom, that's pretty major.
Yeah.
And it's going to have a massive impact on their ability to pass.
Mm-hmm. Continuing down, week 4, it says use ICT in reporting. What does this really mean if a school doesn't use ICT to report? Like, I'm presuming they're not doing the formal end of year, or end of semester, which is often used, you know, on computers. So I'm just not exactly sure what that means.
Stephen, I don't know.
That's fine. It's just when Ian and I walk into a classroom and a teacher asks us, we would like to have an answer that sounds like it makes sense.
We could say we're new, you know. Yeah.
I think so. I think it's again, it's there as a reminder to students and to their mentors that yes, if possible, use ICT in reporting because it's one of the EITSL requirements. Using ICT in reporting doesn't mean to say that they have to formally write up their reports on using ICT as if it's their form, but using data from ICT, you know, using the school-based data and having access to that if possible. So I think it relates more, ICT is used broader than just typing up the final semester report.
Yeah. I've felt it's been more a way of, well, the marks that our prac students are where they're being recorded goes into the school's database. So it's an ICT part of the reporting procedure. I wouldn't expect, I've never seen any of my students write a school report, and I would never expect to see them do that.
Yes.
That's part of the LMS. That's how it works. Just assume that's what it means.
Yeah.
Yeah, except not all schools even have LMSs that are up and functional. So
fair enough. Okay. Fair enough.
Okay.
No, that's fine. Next question down, page 13, 20 days in different schools to EXP 311. So I think we answered this the other day. I just didn't write it down. So yes, we're aiming for each prac to be in a new experience, but if not, we have a chat about it. Again, on that page, conduct the requisite activities.
Can I just comment and go back to the use ICT in reporting? Yes. EITSL has standard 5.4.1, interpret student data. So that's what I was trying to convey. Demonstrate the capacity to interpret student assessment data to evaluate student learning and modified teaching practice. I think it comes within the gamut of that. And then report on student achievement, demonstrate understanding of a range of strategies for reporting to students and parent carers, and the purpose of keeping accurate and reliable records of student achievement. Okay. So it's a flag, if you like, to that. It probably
What statement's that, Stephen? Sorry, the actual...
It's 5.4.1 and 5.5.1. Page 17 of this document.
Thank you. Yep.
And that reminds me, there is a document that I'm aware of, I think it is from AITSL, which says in terms of student placements, and I'll try and get it to you because I've downloaded it. This is the standard. This can be demonstrated by, and so you would then be able to see what sort of activities could demonstrate that standard.
Mm-hmm.
I've said a couple, I met with students on Thursday who are going out on placement through the hub. And in terms of the AITSL standards, sort of said that, held up the document and said that this is the manual. It will guide you through your placements, etc. Your mentors will be ticking off these things. Your tertiary supervisor will come and will be ticking these things off. You've got to demonstrate lessons which exhibit as many of these as you can.
That's right.
Because I've had a student who was a maths teacher, the first secondary, I'm primary trained, so this is the first secondary student I've had to go and look at. And he stood up there literally in my reminiscent of my maths days, turn to page 56, carry on with the next exercise that we were doing this morning. And he then wandered around the class. And I said to his mentor, get him to teach, I've got to say. So having had that experience, I am now telling students, get up and teach.
Well, Stephen, because he wandered around the class, he's an exceptional maths teacher and an exceptional secondary teacher. You know, like normally they would say, do those pages and then sit behind their desk. So,
and then when they're finished, do all the even ones.
That's he right. Should pass, should he?
do the extension questions at the end of the book.
Yeah. Yes, exactly.
All right. Next is on page 13. In week 4, it says, conduct the requisite activities for the teaching performance assessment. We're in obviously EXP 312 here. Now, does that, I think I tried to ask this the other day, but I didn't ask it very well. Are there other assessments that students will be doing in any of their pracs, 212, 212, whatever, that link to other subjects or not?
A quick answer, but an incomplete answer, is that there is no assignments that they do in the way that the TPA is done in 312.
Yeah.
Is mandated by TMAG. With their primary specialization or math specialization, which we are in the process of developing closer processes for, probably would be a polite way of saying it, is that students need to demonstrate their primary or specialization in, as in, if they're doing an English specialization, then their placement needs to demonstrate some of their English proficiencies. If they're, if they're doing maths as their specialization, they need to be showing maths as in their placement. Invariably, they do in some way or another. There's evidence of that. And we haven't pushed it because there's only Jim and I, and we,
We've only got 5 minutes, and Dan has to go.
Oh, sorry, Dan. Shorter answers.
Did you get that from Kylie?
No, but you said you were Zooming with her.
Yes, but I sent her an email to say I'm sorry. I'm chatting with Jim and Stephen, and you trump Kylie.
I'm glad we've trumped Kylie.
Well, she may ring me. We'll see. I didn't get a response from her, so we'll.
She probably doesn't live on email either.
No, she said, "No worries, Dan. Just tomorrow work." There you go. You have trumped her. Next question. It's at the EXP 312. It says, "Study the requirements for fulfilling Australian professional standards for teachers." My question is, how much help do we give them in this? Like, is there anything that ENRI will need to be specifically stepping them through, or they should be doing that themselves?
Jim does it in EDU 101, 401, and in all of the subjects, they're directed to the Australian Professional Standards for Teachers, so it's part of the coursework. The placements are the implementation of that and demonstration of that. Jim?
I would say that well, certainly talking for the masters where you've got A, B, and C. I go and visit them. I've been to visit them in B. And now, what would happen there typically is I'd have a debrief after the lesson. I'd separately from the mentor teacher, 5-10 minutes with each. And what might come out is that the student's really struggling with the AAPST 4.2.3. Or we might get a little short list of, for their final placement, they really need to work on these. It doesn't happen often, but now and again, that's the focus of our conversation.
Right.
So in that sense, they are then coached by the tertiary supervisor, me, and now you guys, I guess. Okay, what actually happened there? Why was that not working? And typically, it might be classroom management, which is one of the hardest ones to sometimes demonstrate, or differentiation. I often get that one. They teach right to the middle, and they've not done a good job of looking after the top and the bottom. So it's not a big deal, Dan, but thanks for the question. But I think we cover it through our visits.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. The TPAs looks massive. I now understand what it is, but again, how much help do we give them, or will Ian and I be expected to give them in putting that together?
Whoa. On the Moodle page, I didn't do it particularly well at all, in fact, at all this year, but in semester 2 last year, I did a series of Zoom meetings with those doing their final placement, and I went through the TPA with them. So they've got an hour or whatever, 30 minutes, maybe twice, of unpacking the guidebook. We're fortunate in that we're in partnership with 3 other colleges, Avondale and the Australian College of Physical Education and Eastern. We're going to be with Eastern. So it's going to be the 4 A's. And this is a...
Eastern was an A.
Sorry?
Yeah, we're getting them to change their name.
Yeah, they've got to change their name. Sorry. Anglicans or something. 50 odd pages. And this guideline, which is on the Moodle page, is really a brilliant document. It was mainly put together by ACPE. And we just said, thank you very much. It was an absolute godsend that they supported us in this venture. There's loads of templates in there. So the students are basically expected to lift the template and fill it in. It's almost, painting by numbers. You just take the manual and you fill in the blanks.
Yep. Okay. Is that
those who've done it, Dan, have found it to be less daunting than it's made out to be, because when it was first being promoted, it was quite, this is the capstone, you can fail, They can still fail, but if they just put their minds to it, they can do a good pass.
Yes.
In terms of the PEC's administrative role, in terms of Jeff's role, he had nothing to do with the TPA.
Okay.
And that becomes the program director's responsibility. And Jim and I would meet with students who are doing their final placement and tutor them through it. And I've done that just recently with some students who are going out, which Ian, you might go and visit. They're both at Toongabbie. So
sure.
Yes, PECS is not, I own it, or Ian owns it, or Jim owns it, or Dan owns it. It is a shared relationship with each doing their particular part.
Yeah.
Jeff would acknowledge that he couldn't do his role without partnering with Jim and myself, particularly with Jim, and he had more and harder to manage students. So PECS administration is one thing.
Secondary teachers, Stephen.
The tertiary supervision is another thing. And
the rebels.
I must admit, I'm not quite sure how that unpacks yet, Ian.
Sure.
So that still, I suppose, needs to be worked out. Well, what's shared by us and what's shared by you? And I'd love to have that chat.
Yeah, good.
On that point, Stephen, it's fair to say that Jeff is an incredible gift to the college. I mean,
absolutely,
he did far more than we could ever ask or think, and that's literally what he was doing. Technically, he was taken on board to find places and send out a manual to the mentor and get a phone number, get an email address, and pay them their whatever it is, money. Sorry?
Usually money.
Yeah, but there's a name for it.
Stipend.
Well, it's not a salary, it's whatever it is. And that's all he did. But then he's taken much more ownership of it over the years. And, he sees them as his students. And in many ways, he'll come in and be, he'll offload on us and talk about so-and-so who just, do they ever read emails? How many times do I have to send this email to this person? And it goes off and on, and on and on. And it's really lovely because they've got such a gem in his support. But it is over and above what the job was originally intended, for which we're eternally grateful.
And can I add to that and say that, and not saying that you're not, or haven't become, or won't be, he was such a team player. Issues, very quick to ask questions, and I'd encourage you both to do that, because as I was trying to share, it is a team responsibility. We've all got some part to play in this. And Jeff took satisfaction in what he was doing. I think one of his last emails was to say that Kalichi has just had a very successful placement, and he was singing the praises of the mentor. He takes particular delight in a job well done. He fixed that up, and the mentor has done a great job. He's developed a relationship with the mentor because of his emails, phone calls, etc. And that's the type of person he was. He established those networks and went above and beyond. And so it wasn't just demarcation. That's and that and that.
Sure.
Next question. Thank you very much. Next question. Do students keep records of extracurricular activity? Do they need to formally write those down so when Ian comes to sort of check them up, he looks at a particular place?
We've only had a couple, you're talking bachelors, and we've only had, so I'm answering, we've only had a couple who've finished their 312. They haven't, but the mentor has documented some of that, and basically they do become, by the in each of their placements, they do become part of the staff and are engaged with what the staff are doing. So this is not a checklist. It is just illustrative of the stuff that they should be doing, so that there's no surprises. For example, a student emailed me, well, I've been involved in schools for a long time. Do I have to go out on playground duty with my mentor teacher? Yes. Given that I have done this by myself in schools as my role as a TA. I said, well, yes, you are required to do that because that's part and parcel of the role. And so these things are documented just to sort of say, well, these are the type of things you must be doing. But it's not a checklist.
Thank you. On page 13, it says consultation of school record keeping and national reporting information, privacy respected. And then that whole thing with privacy is, There's 3 times it comes up, I can see in the manual. It comes up on page 21 under ethics, and on page 48, reading through the medical information required for students in your class as well. Let me just look up where it says ethics. And I'm just not entirely sure. I mean, it's probably outside my scope, but teacher education students should adopt ethical behaviours. Teacher education students must not seek to access personal information about pupils. So that's that there. They must not seek to access personal information about pupils. Then seems to going, or it could be read that it's going against when they need to read through the medical information about the students, or whatever. I'm just wondering how that works.
Yeah. My take on this topic is that every student going into a school obviously has to have their working with children check up to date and scrutinised on entry into the school. They've all got to have done the CPAT or state equivalent child protection awareness training, and wherever there is an issue, for example, a privacy or a disclosure might happen to them, then they almost instantaneously report to their mentor teacher and take the lead from them.
Yep.
So anything in terms of privacy, in my mind, is a matter for the administration and supervision of the mentor. The mentor, if they're doing a good job, should make available to the prac student records of students from previous, especially if they ask for it, because that means they're being proactive, and arguably they will have to ask for it for the TPA. They'll want to know what the kid was doing the previous term or whatever. So,
right, I'm just wondering whether that sentence, they can't seek to access personal information, could prevent someone from actually doing that,
Yeah, but they shouldn't be doing that on their own initiative. They should only be doing that under the guidance of the mentor.
Through their mentor teacher, exactly. Yeah. That makes sense.
Can I ask a question here? Are the student teachers mandatory reporters?
Well, my understanding is no. They go to their mentor teacher.
No. So if a student discloses something to, like a school student discloses an indiscretion or something that's happened to them to the student teacher, it's a student teacher's responsibility to tell their supervising teacher. I would assume that they would do that anyway, but my question then is, if the supervising teacher says, oh, don't worry about that,
right,
and the student continues to, like the AC student continues to be concerned about it, what do they do?
Good question, Ian. And it's not written down, and I would resist writing it down, but to me, the question is the prac teacher is not an employee of the school. Right. And to me, that's the crucial defining point.
Yep.
Therefore, a matter like this, once they've done what they believe, in all honesty, is the right thing to do, they can trust that to God and their mentor.
Okay.
They're not employed by the school.
Yes,
if they've got an issue, they should talk to their program director, Stephen or me.
Yep.
If the issue still continues.
Sure. No, thank you.
Thank you.
What does TPA stand for?
Oh, I've got that now. Yeah.
On page 20, Jim and Ian and Dan, under child protection awareness, in accordance with the mandated child protection regulations, teacher education students advised of abuse in any form, sexual, physical, and emotional, must inform the school principal immediately. They may not have access to that, so it's following the upline.
Oh, yeah.
The principal, this matter should not be discussed with any other persons. They themselves are not mandatory reporters.
Sure, yeah.
They do need to follow school policy. In fact, I'm not sure whether, I know teachers are mandatory reporters, but only through the process of the school. They wouldn't necessarily bypass the school principal in a matter like this, would they?
No, they wouldn't normally do that, but if the principal chooses not to act, then they have a responsibility to act.
Yes, yeah.
In Queensland, the teacher do
If the student still has concerns, then
Yep.
they probably need
They'd raise it with you or Jim.
follow it through.
Sure. Yep. Thank you.
Thank you. Bottom of page 14, it says it's advisable to arrange at least 2 OV day or 4 days, 2 OVs, brackets 4 days before you start your first professional experience. Obviously, yeah, that makes very good sense. Does that ever become a problem? Do we need to coerce them? Do we just tell them they have to?
Arguably, and we've fought this for a long time, the OV is the student's responsibility, not the PECS coordinator.
That's right.
If the PECS coordinator does get involved tangentially in OV issues, it's purely fortuitous to the student. There's no responsibility to do it. Every student coming on board does EDU 100 or 400, which is a non-credit point, no fee subject, where they have to do a whole bunch of mandatory stuff. Now, one of those things is getting themselves sorted out on OVs.
Okay.
And if you happen to be discussing with a student, how many OVs have you done? And they say, OVs? What are they?
It's happened.
Oh. Kick them very, very hard.
Metaphorically speaking.
Of course.
I had one of the dear students ask me, is it possible, please, to have a marking rubric for this assignment? And I said to them, oh, you already have it in your course assignment. Have you read that? And they said, oh, yeah, we haven't actually read that yet. So, oh, yes, I want to find out because, yes, they should, but, yeah. But the reality is I won't, so if they send me the Form C, it's not something that I need to be checking to look at how many OV days they've done.
No.
No.
The Form C is their formal flag that they're ready to do a placement, please.
That's right. I'm just wondering how much checking I need to do to make sure that they, yeah.
No.
But generally, they won't be advised to go into a placement unless Jim and I have spoken with them and are happy with them progressing. But even in that, OVs are only required to be handed in at the end of their placements.
Right.
So whether they've done 2 beforehand, 2 on the way through, I haven't bothered to check.
Okay.
To make sure that they're done.
Yep. Fast tracking, obviously it's only a small element, but it says on page 14 under fast tracking, either EXP 211 or EXP 212 can be taken in 1 year, or EXP 311 and EXP 312 can be taken in the same year in consecutive semesters. Does this mean that EXP 211 and EXP 212 can be taken in the same year in consecutive semesters? Is that what that's also saying?
Yeah.
Because you wouldn't, yeah.
Yeah.
You can't do it otherwise. Yeah.
I presume. It says these arrangements.
Well, again, let me just say program director's call. I've had a student, now that we've broken into terms, which may or may not live with us for much longer.
Right.
A student who wants to fast track wanted to complete EXP 211 and EXP 212 in the same semester. I allowed them to do 1 in one term, 1 in the other term. The first one is 10 days, which is self-observed and doesn't require a mentor.
Yes.
So kind of an easy fix. I wouldn't allow them to do 212, 311, etc. in the same semester.
Yeah.
But I have with that one.
But either way, talk to Steve, talk to you if it's undergrad, or Jim if it's masters.
Absolutely.
Yep. Okay. Down to, in addition, it says on page 15, in addition, you, students, should work through the reading resources on the relevant Moodle page. Is that something Ian or I need to be reading those readings, or on top of that?
No.
No.
I thought you'd memorize them.
Well, not completely, Ian. I thought you had. Anyway, that was.
I have.
Oh, you have. Good. On page 15, it says to the students, your contributions to the PE discussion forum. This is non-assessed forum. It's an integral part of the PE program. Question, who monitors to make sure they are contributing to the PE discussion forum?
Oh.
Yeah, that was an ideal that was put in.
Jim,
if they're talking to me about their professional experience, then they're engaging about their professional experience. To be honest, in the Bachelor, we've only had a handful going through to the final. Not that this is the final one, but yeah, it doesn't happen and it doesn't get monitored. It's not a subject. It is a subject. They pay for it, but the whole extent of it is really the 4-week placement.
No, remember there's unknown unknowns. So for my sake, and I'm presuming for Ian, we don't know which things are essential and which aren't. So just
on occasions, if somebody's got a great story, from their placement, I will say to them, "Hey, you should probably put that on a news forum." And I actually wouldn't direct them to the EXP or the 500C one. I would actually say go to EdInfo and post it there. So, testimonies of, the lights going on and they've had this awesome experience, which is worth sharing with everybody. So they put it on there.
Great. Yep. Christian Education Professional Development Days. Each semester there will be 1-day program with school holidays set aside professional development. It's compulsory, italics, for those to attend PD days. Again, who records if students attend? Where are they recorded? Who records, etc.?
Me and Stephen.
Okay.
But we record them anyways for those who live in far north Queensland. They don't have to fly down to Sydney.
Oh, nice. Okay. But it's not something that Ira and I need to be checking if they're actually doing that element.
No. But be aware that it exists and it's been an incredibly invaluable part of the program.
Yeah.
We've had some very good topics. Unfortunately, we had a good one lined up in April, cancelled because of COVID. The one before was incredible. We've had some great guests coming in and talking to students about a range of issues that are related to education.
That's great. Under the other considerations on page 20, it's we're talking about absences. It says the tertiary supervisor should be informed of this situation. That's if the education student doesn't complete the required professional experience teaching days. Question, who informs a tertiary supervisor?
Well, if you become aware, please do. But the students know they've got to fill in the attendance form and it's got to be 20 days. We occasionally have discussions, does this day count when the staff were in doing a PD day?
Yeah. And
usually I've taken, if it's a 1-dayer, I've counted that, Stephen, as they're there, they're learning education, they're with their colleagues.
Yep. Now the tertiary supervisor, though, in this case is now Ian. Is that right?
Well, this is another development that Ian and I will have to have a chat about, for which I'm eternally grateful. So yes, there is a baton passing on, as it were, through the screen from, I trust, I don't know whether Ian's accepting it, but
with open arms.
See, this is where the overlap comes in.
Yeah.
The program director, in many ways, needs to know if the placement isn't going to be finished, but what will happen then can't be really organised apart from the tertiary supervisor, who will need to arrange visits and so forth, and will need to know it. And so this is the team aspect of it.
Yep.
It says it is a requirement Again, on page 20, it says the requirement that all students complete this training and upload their certificate to Moodle before starting the first professional experience or clinical teaching placement.
That is mandatory.
Am I responsible to check this is complete, and how can I check it?
No, it's part of the coursework, and Jim checks it off as part of the subject. Not the PEC subject, but EDU 101, 401 kind of thing. Yeah.
400 and 100 now.
EDU 100 and 400?
Yeah.
And lecturers check off. Yep. Thank you. And that's the same also for the first aid certificate?
Interesting.
No. It's required that they hold one before graduation so that they go out into the school with a current first aid certificate. And
Right.
do that as part of the PDHPE subject, PDHPE-B, and 10% of the marks are withheld until that certificate is submitted, at which point they then get bonus 10% and that pass that subject. So it is not part of they are not required to have one when
Okay.
they're going out on a placement. They are
Right.
one by the end.
Okay.
They'll never be left alone with a student.
That's right.
We would trust they'll be required to do that.
Yep. The next question we've already answered. That was about accessing personal
Yep.
information. Observational visits, we've already said that's nothing to do with me, really. Child Protection Awareness Training, CPAT. This is an external online training required for your first semester. Again, where is this recorded? I can see it's administered within EDU 105.
100 and 400 now.
Oh, okay. So that's, okay.
Yeah.
So that's just an update that needs to be
Done.
but I don't need to check off that's all happened. Excellent. Land type preparation. You're required to complete the literacy and numeracy preparation test in your first semester. It says on page 22. Jeff said students aren't allowed to start their final placement without land type in literacy and numeracy, but he said you need to check this. And then it says students have had a pass in land type before they can enroll in EXP 312 and EDU 500C. And then page 10 of the manual says bachelor students must have sat and passed the test by the end of the second minor placement, EXP 311. So yeah, question, when does land type have to be done for graduate and masters?
Before they can enroll in their final placement. But the preparation test, they have to do in their first semester of study, under 100 or 400. Okay, in the first semester, while they're doing EDU 100 or EDU 400, one of the tasks they do there is the land type preparation test, which is a freebie on the website, the ASA website.
Mm-hmm.
And that gives us an indication as to whether they're going to be problematic.
Yep.
If they are,
Okay.
we'll then arrange for tutoring for them.
Okay.
Where do you, Dan, you said something about second placement, or can you?
Yeah, their second minor placement, so EXP 311. That's on page 10 of the manual. Let me just... under literacy and numeracy test, and the third paragraph down, in order to register your land type test, we've made it compulsory part of the professional experience. Bachelor students must have sat and passed the test by the end of the second minor placement, EXP 311.
I don't know how that language got in it, because we have used the language before 312. So that will need to be checked. So we don't require that they have passed the test by the end of, the language is strange. The end of 311 is the end of their final placement.
Right.
But it should be after their final placement.
312 is the final placement.
Yes, so it should be sat and passed before So there's some language incorrect there.
Okay. As long as I know before their final placement, that's 500C or 312, they need to have passed it.
Sure.
And is there any, that seems like a big thing. I'm not sure if it is, but it seems like a big thing. Is there anywhere I can go to double check? Because looking through Jeff's, he's got little asterisks and stars, which means certain things, but can I look them up and see, yep, they've passed or something?
Very good question. We need an educational specialist administrative support person. And that would be their job. There is a database. I'm struggling to remember where we put it. But yeah, regard that as a program director's prerogative. They should know. If they don't know, they can find out. So you are free, Dan, to quiz a prac student and say, so when did you do your test and what score did you get?
Okay.
Just ask them if you've got any questions.
It was a big deal, and it is a big deal because in terms of for Jeff finding placements, he was very anxious about students having completed Landtide, etc., and therefore to complete Land. Quick story: we got caught when a rogue reporter wanted to embarrass institutions about Landtide, and we got caught up in that. I'll call it a sting, because they started ASA, which is the one who manages Landtide, or the minister's department released results, and then that journalist started reporting that X amount or what X percentage have not passed Landtide.
Yeah.
AC got caught and embarrassed by that because we had 2 students sitting one year, and one dropped out and didn't continue, and one went on to continue, but in the following year. And so 50% of students, it was reported 50% of students failed Landtide at AC.
That's right.
Yeah. Really cross. So we've encouraged students to finish it in the calendar year.
Yeah.
Because if it rolls over into the following year, it acts as figures for the year before of a fail. Mm-hmm. Whereas you've got 3 opportunities to pass it.
Just trying to understand institutional character, I suppose. So before I enroll one, like I asked them, did you pass them? What's your thing? Would it be appropriate to ask them, can you email the PDF or the certificate or something?
Oh, absolutely. Okay. It needs to be documented. It should be being documented on EDU 100. We
will get there.
Yep, no, that's right. Now, still on Landtide.
Can I tell you a quick story on Landtide? Stephen's told the story, so I'm going to tell a story.
You're next, so think of one.
In the last 2 years, maybe 2 years ago, we had a flux of quite a number of international students enrolling to the masters with us, but their English was really, really rocky. And so they were struggling and they were failing. And of course, Jeff was on the receiving end of all this, trying to find places for these people that couldn't even speak English.
Yes.
So it became a big headache for him.
Right.
We've since made our selection process onboarding students a little bit more rigorous.
Yep.
And arguably, I'm glad to say that the story has got out that AC is no longer the soft touch it was.
Yeah.
What's the IELTS for the masters?
Same as bachelor, and
7.
it's no. Overall 7.5.
Yep.
And more than 7 for everything, more than 8 for speaking, more than 8 for listening.
Sure, but it wasn't that before. Is that what you're saying?
No. That's always been the case. So they can do IELTS or PEATS, and they are equivalent. But even though they can scrape that, they found IELTS Landtide more of a challenge.
Sure. Okay, that makes sense.
You're aware that Landtide requires students to pass as 30% of the adult population in Australia. So it's not a 50% pass rate. it's a moving figure as they recalibrate, well, what is a 30%?
The top 30.
Top 30 in Australia.
Yeah. Okay. It's good.
When you said their English was rocky, Jim, I'm just imagining a student from non-English speaking background writing, "My English is a little small pebbly at times."
You've been talking too much.
Yeah. On that, tomorrow, when I jumped onto the ASA website, it says registration for 2020 test window will open on the 7th of July. Now that's tomorrow, and closes 5 o'clock on the 20th of July. In the manual on page 93, it says our professional experience coordinator, Jeff Voller, will be happy to advise on which Lantite test window would be best for you to fit in with your proposed professional experience placements. My suggestion is, is it possible to send out some sort of bulk email to all education students to say, due to changing of Jeff to Dan, due to COVID, we want to advise you, this is us advising you, you need to be sensible. Is that possible?
Well, my off the top of my head thinking is you're going to be in Moodle 500 and EXP 312. Dan?
I'm not yet, but I will be, I presume.
Yeah, so when you're in there,
yeah,
I would own those 2 Moodle shelves, and why not put a notice out on both of them, copy paste, regarding Lantite and this window, and say, get in there, give them a link, and if you've not passed Lantite yet, now is a very good time, move it.
Yep.
Or worse to that effect, and we can check the language between me and Stephen before you do that.
Yep.
Yeah, the complicating factor is that some students are not going to have access. It's correct for them to try and enroll, but ACER may kick them off because they're not doing their final placement. And there is still some concern about Lantite's availability for non-final placement.
But Stephen, the thing is, it's been accepted by NESA that it's not so much final placement as final year. So if they are,
yes,
it could be a minor that they're having to do as well as a major before Christmas.
Yeah, no, I agree. They may register, but they may not have access. But we need to tell them that they should.
Yeah, anybody who is eligible jolly well needs to get in at the front end of this window and not wait till the 19th, because there'll certainly be no places by then. I mean, why ASA can't organise themselves beats me, but they can't.
Yep. Not one of my questions I wrote down, but I just started getting to the point where I was just starting to contact students just to make sure I was on top of their case. Rebecca Gerges, who's one of yours, Stephen, has just finished up at Penrith Christian School. And so I was just checking, yep, is that the case? And she also did hers with Emily. Now, Rebecca said, look, I'd love to do my final placement this year also, the EXP 312. But she says, I don't want to put in my Form C and start the process because I need to make sure I can get time off work with my employer, but I don't want to ask my employer without knowing that I will probably be able to do my prac. Does that make sense? So I said, look, just email me because my head's full, and she appreciated that anyway. Just trying to think through, so if I just said, look, just email me and we can ask the school, but then you would have to fill in Form C to start it properly, or
get her to talk to me, because as program director, I've got to check whether it's applicable, what she's got on her program.
Okay.
And so any question like that, please, Dan, direct to program director. They should only be filling in a Form C once the program director has said you can do a placement. Now,
that's what my first question was, are you enrolled in the subject? And she said no, but I don't want to enroll and then pull out.
Yes, I know. You see, Rebecca plays her own game, and so we do become familiar with the students.
Exactly.
She was not going to do a placement. Then an opportunity came, and she begged off and so forth. And then she was going to do it, and so we've moved mountains for her to do this last one.
Right.
her presumption that she should be able to do another one is a bit rich. So.
Well, except that I happened to visit this student for you, Stephen.
Oh, you've given it away, have you?
And you
no,
said him.
and I vouch for the fact that she is doing really well.
Oh, don't do that. Depends on how many other subjects she's got to do.
So, all credit to your teaching, Stephen. I would suggest let's let her catch the wave if we can.
If there's a wave for her to catch, happy for her to do it. But
there's no waves in Penrith.
Let's do it.
Definitely no waves in Penrith.
Pardon?
There's no waves in Penrith.
Yes.
She'll have to come up
create a tsunami.
Sorry for not laughing in. Onto my next question.
That's all right. It was another one of my dad jokes.
There's also no waves here in Townsville, much to the disgust of my boys. Page 93 of the manual talks about the 2019 test window. How often does the manual get updated? Who's responsible for updating manual? Stephen is.
Both of us.
Okay. Is it worth updating that now that the Lantites come out?
I think this season that we're going through now with you two guys, would be good to start the process of updating. There's edits to be done. At the moment I can't see much of a window to do it, but it jolly well should be.
Okay, I'm going to say not urgent. Jim and Stephen do this. If I get my head, I love doing this sort of stuff. So maybe sometime I'll chat with you, Jim, and say, hey, can I please have a crack at doing this?
Dear me. Well, thank you.
On page.
Why are you hesitating, Jim? Just say yes.
On page 93.
Rebecca, she has to do 2 subjects next semester. 3.
Come on, Stephen. Dan's moving on.
All right.
Page 93 says all new test students in semester 1, 2019 are required to complete Landtype, separate literacy and numeracy. Questions within EDU 105, that should be 100. Introduction to Academic Research and Writing within the Moodle EdInfo. So my question was, can I access this section of Moodle? And now you've made it so Ian and I both can. Is that correct?
We will.
Yep.
So is 105, is that the one I did the marking for you for, Jim?
Yeah.
So it is 105, not 100.
Oh.
No, there's a 100 for the mandatory reporting stuff, mandatory requirements. The 105 is introduction to academic writing and research.
Yep.
And it's a master's equivalent. So we need to get you access to those. That would be really good. Certainly, well, there's no harm at all in you both getting access to that so you can see what's in those, and the 100 and the 400.
But that's in this section that should be says EDU 100, I think. Yeah.
The Landtype stuff, yes.
Yeah. Okay. On page, sorry to go backwards, but on page 22, it says teacher education student should be informed of relevant occupational health and safety policy and procedures operational at the school to which they are appointed. Is this the role of the school supervisor or the mentor teacher?
Well, often in a school, there won't be a school supervisor. There'll only be a mentor. So whoever is the most, relevant person in the school.
Yep.
Presumably that should read workplace health and safety.
Yeah.
Occupational health and safety stopped 8 years ago.
Yes.
Just when I'm just talking to people, I want them to be able to know.
No, that's the mentor's responsibility, not you.
Yes. Occupational health and safety. That's right. Thank you. My next question, the book says, if the education student arrives at their placement to discover that their mentor teachers won't be at school that day, they're to immediately report to the executive staff. Is that the executive staff of the school or Alpha Crucis?
The school.
The school. Page 23, from 2019, the final professional experience will be the time for the teacher education student to collect and collate evidence. Is what it says. I know that EXP 312 is the final experience for undergrad. Is 50C the master's experience? Now it is, and but it probably shouldn't be in this manual if this is the undergrad manual. Is that right? Yep, okay. So there's 3, how many practice for masters? I know there's 3, and I haven't read the manual yet, so I'll figure all that out. Page 24 says, and is assessed by Alpha Crucis College at moderation. Just let me find out what is assessed there. The TPA. So it says it's assessed by Alpha Crucis. Is that Stephen and Jim?
Yeah.
Who's it moderated by?
The consortium that.
Right, the gang of 4.
Yeah, the gang of 4.
Sure.
Oh, okay.
Might be a better name.
It's better than making EA.
Now that gets on to talk about if they don't do well. If it says if you do and your EXP 312 major is unsatisfactory, we will still counsel you. That's very nice. Again, is that Jim and Stephen would do that? Or Stephen?
I think Ian in his role would come in on that. Depends on what counselling is required.
Well, if it's council CIL, I probably need to redefine what we're talking about. But if it's SEL, then that's probably a good idea.
I think it's CIL actually.
It shouldn't be.
Let me find. No, it's CIL.
Oops.
Page 26, is it?
Well, we know that Jim wrote it. That's page.
Oh, well.
No,
Say
I'm
no
blaming,
more.
I'm blaming Jenny Bickmore-Brand.
Page 24. He said that at the bottom. So that would be a job for.
That's
Ian.
me, is it? Okay.
Okay.
Thank you.
Page 26. Should any health and personal issues arise requiring change of placement or schedule, relevant medical information evidence needs to be obtained.
We talked about it.
Provided, yeah. So prac placements and things, Jess said they did. That was a serious one.
Yep.
Page 26. All teacher education students are made aware of the child protection working with things. Who makes them aware? Is that in EDU 100?
And 400.
Yep. All students, on page 26, all students are required to complete the working with children as part of, I don't know, do I need to keep reading the questions or everyone's tracking?
Oh, no, I can see the questions, but thank you. You're doing a great job. All the state equivalent.
Okay, yep. And that's or not and, like there's no sort of funny New South Wales requirements that they must have also done. Yep, okay. Next one, the MTs are encouraged to complete as part of their ongoing professional development, the online professional learning program. Question, how are they encouraged to complete this? How strongly should I encourage, or is that something I do?
That we've extracted from this program. So that will be an edit out.
Okay.
What does MT mean?
Master
teacher. Yeah.
Mentor teacher.
Oh, sorry.
Mentor teacher.
Oh, sorry. My apologies. Take that back, Dan. Yeah, this is mentor teachers. This is a work in progress. We haven't got there yet, but we do have some PD for the mentors that we haven't worked out how to get them to do yet.
Is that NESPA approved?
Stephen?
So approved.
Yes.
So just very quickly, this was a statement we had to put in following feedback from the accrediting, recent accreditation for the MTP. And so this was a statement. They asked the question from the accreditation panel, what mentoring do we do?
Is that from TEXA?
NESA.
Oh, NESA, right. Okay, yep.
Yeah. So we had to state something, and certainly we do encourage, we make people aware of it, but...
Yeah, but certainly it wouldn't be your roles. We've got to work out a system. The educational specialist administrative support person.
Yeah.
Does that person exist, Jim? Sorry, is that every time you say those words, there's this cheeky little grin on it. Do they exist, or?
Jim wants it. Stephen's saying they don't need it. Jim's just reminding Stephen.
What?
I'm just trying to read the dynamics as well.
No,
we've been trying to get one. Is it
completely.
3 years? 4 years? I mean, it's been discussed for about 4 years, and it just keeps falling through. Understaffed.
So imagine
if
that
you really wanted to be involved in that as a part of a solution, Dan, in your letter to mentors, you could possibly put a link and say, well, there's these modules that they may want to have a look at as part of their professional development. Now,
right, well, I don't want to. I'm imagining. I'm trying to actually hook these teachers in to say yes. I'm trying to make it as easy as possible.
Yeah,
true.
Plus, then I'm saying we encourage you to do this large thing. And I'm
forget it. Nice idea, but no.
Stephen, we must have a chat about this.
Yeah,
it's got to get some legs.
So
okay.
How strongly should I encourage it? No, it's in the handbook, and that's how we encourage. Is that right?
Yeah,
sure.
That's it.
Again, on page 26, it says they should also be aware of any college assignments the teacher education student needs to complete. See Appendix U. But Appendix U doesn't list any college assignments, so I'm really not sure how that hangs together.
The point there is the Appendix U.
That's the summary of professional experience results, is what that is.
Yeah, wrong one. It should. Sorry, Stephen. It should say Appendix X. This is my thinking. Forgive me. The mentor teacher, I think, should be encouraged to be aware of all the assignments that the students are doing, our students are doing, so that there can be as much synergy between what they're preparing for their classes and their assignments. And in particular, when people are doing the clinical teaching model, or they're in a hub, the idea there is that if a student is on a class and they're preparing a sequence of lessons for that class, hey, wouldn't that make sense to submit those for assignment so-and-so?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what that's talking about. Am I wrong, Stephen?
I think that's fair enough. I think that's a good pickup.
So we don't want the mentor to be ignorant of what the student is doing
in other subjects while they're doing their practice.
Yeah, and another thing is we make exception for the students handing in assignments when they've got a clash with a placement, because unlike other unis where there's a specific date, our placements can be anywhere in a semester. And so if it happens to land when their final assignments are due, then we will give them extensions for that.
Yep.
Associated with that is that we've told students they have to own and drive their placement. So if they know assignments that they're coming up, then they're responsible for. It's not necessarily the mentor who will say to them, oh, and dear, what assignments do you have and can I help with them? It's the student who has to say, look, I've got these assignments, can I teach in this area and that would help me? And, you know, take the initiative. We have had situations where they've sat back and not taken that initiative. And so in my discussion with students, I've encouraged them that, and that's just anecdotal. It doesn't mean to say that becomes part of your responsibilities. It's just the fact of they need to own their placement.
Sure.
Who do students submit the TPA to?
Moodle.
Up through Moodle in 312 or 500.
Okay.
They can submit it in hard copy if they so wish, in which case they need to get a carrier or a courier to deliver it here, or to Stephen's home in Greenpoint.
On page 27, it says, and the mentor teachers are not involved in all the assessment of this work, which is entirely responsibility of the college. However, the TES will very much appreciate any support in the setting up of the framework for the TPA. What is it? What does framework relate to there? Just means the structure?
They've got to identify 3 students at the front end that they're going to particularly monitor and assess at the end. So I think it's helpful that the PEC students relate to their mentor, what they're doing, shows them the guidebook. It's the TES who's responsible for this, but they may as well get as much professional support as they can get.
Yep.
In fact, they can't do the TPA without the teachers' cooperation, because ultimately, again, it comes down to privacy. The 3 students that they would want to do an observation on, they've also got a video, if permissible, but they need to be able to look back on records so that they can...
No, it was the word framework that threw me. Sorry.
Yeah. Yep.
Loose word.
Structure. Yep. And then on that page 27, I'm not sure if you're, sorry, on page 28, it's basically talking all the things that the teacher is. It says school class context description. I'm presuming, is this paragraph and the next useful hints in completing the minor professional experience final reports, Appendix L, and the major professional experience final Appendix O, in which, is that what it's, I think that's what it's talking about, but I'm not sure.
The class context, that's TPA, and there the students have to study the school, get their head around the demographics, the socioeconomic, and all that of that school and of that class.
Yep.
So they will have to dig up data from the school administration on that.
But have a look at, I don't know if you can turn to that in the manual, because it comes under a section, the mentor teacher, and then it's got all sort of a little natty snapshot of all the things mentor teachers should be doing.
Stephen, have you got that there?
I have. That seems to reflect the TPA. It doesn't have anything to do with EXP 311.
But in the minor professional experience final report, or Appendice L and Appendice O, they've got little headings that say school class context description and summary statement.
Yeah.
So I'm wondering whether were they directed to the teacher so the teacher knows what to put in there or not?
Good question.
The teacher in completing that would generally write a brief statement about the school context. It's to be looked at.
That could be clearer, Stephen. I think this is referring to TPA. Stephen?
I think it's the TPA, yes.
Okay.
You see, on the previous page, the last paragraph, the 3rd paragraph under MT, mentor teachers, new from 2019, all TES on their final blah. So this has been written with the TPA in mind.
Okay. Excellent.
that could have been clearer. Yes, granted.
No, that's fine. I'm going to. That's good.
I've put a note. We need to clarify that.
Just some background information. Note that on page 28 it says the Teachers Federation supports teacher education student supervision, providing the mentor teachers participation is voluntary. Is that the unions were saying that we shouldn't have student teachers in classrooms because it was taking away jobs or something?
No, I think the gist there is that no teacher can be made to be a mentor. The Federation have
okay.
specified that it's got to be their free will to take on the student.
Okay. Yep. All right. Yeah, that was just a bit of background. I was interested. Page 29, it says payment may be directed to the school or the mentor teachers. There's a big difference between school or mentor teachers. Which one is it?
Well, technically speaking, the school may receive the payment. So therefore, it's in no shape or form a payment to the mentor. The school can decide, and they're 99% certain, always do, say yes, the mentor can have it. But technically, it could go to the school's coffers. So to me, that's very important, because HR might want to see this as a payment to a person.
And yeah, complicating, but we won't go into that story.
Not now.
Okay. So Jeff said that my number one priority was making sure that everyone got paid. So that's, I was going to be chatting with Kylie about that or whatever next.
Yeah.
But so from your point of view, the payment should always go to the school, mainly go to the school?
No.
Doesn't matter?
It's basically what I say to the mentor is, when I do my visit, make sure that you make a request for payment. So I make the mentor send an email to Jeff, or now you, saying, I gather we get paid for this, and he'll send you the forms.
Okay.
So that's the $15 a day for the first placement, and 31, whatever it is, for the others.
Yeah. Now, Kylie, sorry, this is a little bit of a, I'm just trying to look up. Kylie sent me a email. I'm just going to go into my sense, sorry. Because she had different numbers, and I'm thinking that's pretty important.
I'm so glad you're talking to us.
No, sorry, it was Leng. Leng had sent me a little workflow. She had, for EXP 312, it was $155, which is $15 a day for EXP 312. And I'm thinking for EXP 312, it's $20 a day. Oh, it's $31.50 a day. So it's $630. Am I right?
Yes.
Yep. The only one that's $15 a day is EXP 212 and EXP 312.
No, just EXP 211.
Yes.
And EDU 500A.
Oh, okay. It's a little bit more complex. I might send an email just clarifying that then.
Send it to Jim. Don't send it to Lane.
Yeah, righto. Yeah.
Thank you.
No worries. Good. I'll just make a note of that. She was doing good. She's just trying to...
Yeah, she is good.
No criticism. It's just Jim knows the figures.
Yeah, no, she's good.
No worries. She will be back at work tomorrow, so that's fine. With regards, next question, page 29, with regards to the major professional experience, final teaching report, they will receive the school report, have it certified, and copy it for filing at Alpha Crucis College Secura system. My question is, well, that's put under my, it's a, I think it's my job according to the manual, but I'm happy for it not to be.
Now that's the assessment, and that's the tertiary supervisor's role.
So that's Ian's. Maybe now.
Well, up until now, the PD has always been the tertiary supervisor, and so we now need to work through how that's divided up.
Yep. Okie dokie. So you can skip the next question then. The next one, 29, the tertiary supervisor oversees the teacher education student's professional experience from the placement form, Appendix C, through to their major professional experience, final teaching report, Appendix O. So what does that actually mean?
A long-winded way of saying the professional experience officer tracks the student or is their guide through all their placements.
Yeah.
She says the supervisor, so...
So would that now be the professional experience coordinator now?
That's the tertiary supervisor. Yeah, so that's not you, Dan, it's me.
You're the program director.
Yeah, but I'm the tertiary...
Program director in the role of the tertiary supervisor when it comes to PECS.
I've been doing the tertiary supervising for the last 10 years.
Okay. No worries. So that's Jim.
Yep.
Or Stephen.
Excellent. The tertiary supervisor is responsible for ensuring that the host school and the teacher education students are given all the support they need throughout the professional experience program. I thought that would be the PECS, professional experience coordinator.
Yes.
Isn't my job to protect you guys a bit from...
Yeah, and you do.
Yep.
Thank you. That's another edit, I think.
So what point is that, or what number is that one, is that Dan?
It's on page 31. I can't, I copy and pasted them out, so the very first line of page 30, sorry.
Okay. Marked to be considered.
Question, there's a few of these role ones I'm not sure about now. The next one says receive that all school reports and receive the all school reports and documentation.
It's PD's role, tertiary supervisor role. It comes into Moodle. It's not the PEC's responsibility.
Okay.
If I might make a comment in passing, this is the first time that this document has been read so thoroughly in 10 years.
Thank you.
So thank you very, very much.
No, appreciate it. Question 31, the major professional experience final teaching report, Appendix O, is crucial to the success of the teacher education student in the Bachelor of Education Primary and Secondary awards. This report will be of primary importance in the teacher education student's subsequent application for employment, which is true. I'm not sure what the paragraph is doing here. Does it need a heading or is it part of the tertiary supervisor's information? Just in how it's sitting, like it says the tertiary supervisor will, and then it's got all those points, and then it's just got this little random thing. So maybe just a note for when we edit. Yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, down to page 44. So now we're on to the, I didn't read the stuff about hubs because I figured that's not what Ian and I need to know about at the moment. Appendix O, the observation journal. It has that little heading, that little footnote down the bottom. These notes were created by Pippa and Leslie.
Just to give a reference.
But I'm not sure which notes because there don't seem to be any notes. I thought I'd read a practice sort of what one might look like.
Those pages are all cribbed from there.
Oh, okay. So the whole lot's taken from them.
Yeah.
Okay. No worries.
Up until page 53.
Yep. No worries. No, I like giving credit where credit's due. That's good. On page 45, it says the OJ has been constructed with spaces after each section. The backs of these pages can also be utilised if more room is required. The staple can be removed and the OG placed in a file so pages observation reflections can be added. So it's obviously a physical thing. Who sends that observational journal to students?
The text, the students.
This is this template here, 47, sorry, 44 through to 49 or 40.
Yeah, but is that a real booklet that you have a stack of them on the shelf and you hand them to students?
So there'll be no staples.
No.
Yeah, it needs editing.
Okay, so basically students they already have this, so they just copy and paste this section into a new document. Is that right?
What I've said to them regarding the observational journal, these pages here will give you hints and tips for writing a good journal. I've never held them accountable for hitting every item. It's a aide-memoire.
Okay, but so if they're not, yeah, so the staple thing is basically for the observational journal, they're going to be handing in some sort of soft copy of something.
Yes.
Great.
With a cover sheet.
Yes. And it says the OJ can be downloaded. Presumably if they're reading this, they don't need to download one.
No.
They've already got one.
No, correct.
The teaching resource folder on page 45, when I got up to that, I went, oops, because it's the only time that it's referenced apart from once on page 40, and that's to do with the CTM. And then I'm wondering, is this the same as the resource file? And then sometimes could it be called the planning file?
Stephen?
I'm not sure where I don't see it on page 45, Dan.
Okay, let me just,
Oh yeah, got it.
third paragraph.
That's the portfolio. And yes, they do develop a portfolio, but in terms of submitting that now as part of their final placement, the TPA has taken over. I think this whole question about this OV journal needs to be looked at.
It does.
But this seems to be different from the observation journal. This is like a resource file. And then page 48 calls it I think it's the same thing, calls it a planning file. Because back in my day, yeah, we'd go and we'd take photographs of the pin boards and we'd make up big folders of things.
Well, they do that with an e-portfolio, and various subjects access that document that they have running through their degree.
And who is this something that we assess?
Yeah, not under PECS, but under other subjects.
Okay.
So yeah, that needs a lot of editing.
Yep. It talks about a journal, The Beginning, Teaching and Beyond by Barry and King. Is that a textbook students have access to?
It's in the line. There's a couple of copies, but they're not required to buy it.
Because they then it steps it through. They have a whole lot of things like read this chapter, do these activities, read this chapter, do these activities.
As Jim said, this is a guide.
Okay. No worries. On page 48, it says, during your major professional experience 4. I'm presuming that's EXP 312?
Yeah, well, your major experience is 312, yes.
So, yep.
Yes, at one stage they were called 1, 2, 3, and 4.
Yes, okay.
That's a typo, I think, a leftover.
Sorry for being pedantic, but I just want to make sure that I get it all. On page 49, it says download the suggested format provided in your school experience manual and write a session plan. Is this the same as a lesson plan, which would be Appendice G?
Jim?
Well, I've never insisted on. So are you, where, yeah, I haven't got the bachelor version in front of me, I'm sorry.
Dan, all of that in the observation journal is suggestion.
Okay.
Not assessed formally.
Yep.
Guide for the student. So, and I would acknowledge that it all needs looking at and reviewing. Jenny did start for the bachelor, start looking at this and reviewing it. It hasn't been taken up further.
Okay.
She and Sam Vandermortel from the Hub had great visions of creating this document that would then become something that they would buy,
right,
publish and sell.
Yep.
Nearly. And so this is also needed.
As long as I can say to the students, it's all suggestions and it's not being assessed, is it? So
no.
Yep, I'll just skip straight down to Form C. Jeff's actually using a different form that's in this manual. So he's added a few things on the bottom. I can keep happily using Jeff's one.
Well, Jeff asked a couple of other questions which I think are pertinent. I have seen it and I'm happy to see for that to happen. And we put,
such as what?
Well, in my questions, I was asking the one I've already asked about conflict of interest, but he said no, not necessarily. No, that's fine. But he says things like he's got down the.
He asked about land title as a deliberate question, I believe.
I don't think. No, I don't think he did actually.
Didn't he? I thought he did.
He's asking for things like working with children, check number. Oh yes, on the bottom he's got working with children, check number and expiry date. I've passed numeracy land tide? Yes, not yet. I've passed literacy land tide? Yes, not yet. I give permission to share my contact details with the placement school? Yes, no. Which all seem good questions.
Well, my response quickly would be, if he's given you that form, please feel free to use it. And Stephen and I will need to splice this into the manual if we agree.
Okay, all right, I'll send them. I shall send them through. Because if we're doing that, I'd suggest, can we tick one to say, yes, I've completed my anaphylaxis training. Yes, I've completed my, whatever. Anyway.
Anaphylaxis and CPAT are done early and are part of the enrolment process. So that's probably why he hasn't got them in.
Right.
They wouldn't have got that far if they hadn't submitted that.
So I don't need to be worrying about, sending a student accidentally out without the right thing there.
No.
Okay. Very near the end. 3 more questions to go. Thank you for your time. Page 59. I think I've figured it out now, but it talks about, that has rating of NB, SHO and NA, but there's no ranking on that.
N is not yet, B is beginning,
yeah.
F, satisfactory, H, high, O, outstanding.
Yeah, I found that on page 71, the form has one there. So I suppose if a teacher asks me, I now know where to get it. But and finally, 103, Ian, this was you. Tertiary supervisors will be trained at a training session held by the college and online for interstate staff with further follow-up and support to ensure consistent scoring. And my question was, how does this happen? Well, Ian.
So do you want to go to Queensland? Surely not. Surely not. I don't believe in time travelling.
Oh dear.
Welcome to 1975.
I was
Up
3.
until now,
I was 3.
and this has been Jim and myself, and as colleagues, it's been a working process of, for me, ongoing professional development.
Yeah.
We'll bring Ian up to speed.
Brilliant. that is all my questions, and you have done exceptionally well. And sorry if some of them were mundane. I didn't know which ones were which.
Another Donald Rumsfeld moment.
I'm absolutely indebted to you, Dan. That's been really thorough. Thank you so much.
Can I share my screen with you?
Please.
What a mess this is going to be. Okay. So there's a number of different files that, sorry, just trying to move things out of the way. So what I did, I've got professional experience. These are the emails from Jeff, and he sent them like this: email 1, form C, email 2, manuals, email 3, mentor, whatever. And then when it started getting, and so he's great, he's got mentor blurbs and payment forms. And when we started getting down into the table of placements, Jeff sent 2 lots. There was one, and then he sent out another version. So I've added these numbers here just to try to keep a track. But they look like this. I've got people like Ashley Christensen, Taylor DeRossi, Rena Ko. And then see these little brackets? I'm not sure how well you can see. So
Yeah.
See these little brackets are semicolon. Sometimes they contain that, and sometimes they're just are. Do you know what they would stand for?
Stephen?
Rachel Hopwood only gets an R.
Before Dan, and I haven't been able to answer it.
Okay. That's fine.
It hasn't impacted what I do or what Jim has done, because that's other coding within the spreadsheet. I was just quickly looking for the spreadsheet, but
so, well, he's got that one, and then there's another one. He has schools database, and the schools database seems to be amazing. And in that, he has a tab called student placements as well. And you can see I was just trying to check with Rebecca Gerges. So it looks like this has some general information. I've highlighted that dark blue, and then you can see EXP212, EXP31, etc. So you can see, I can see logically how he's tracking the students across there. But then during COVID, he started these placement tables as well. And so there's similar names showing up. So here we have, open up for me, would you please? Maybe it's this one here. Yeah. So again, he has names. And again, Rebecca Gerges showed up on that one. So what I would love is to know who's currently still on prac, who's coming up on prac, without doubling up and making yet another table.
Yeah.
Yeah. Can you advise?
Dan, if you close that one,
This
and
one?
Go back to the one where you had the R in brackets.
Yes, that's this one here.
No. Yes. That one.
Mm.
That one, I would, from my perspective, is the most useful format I've found with Jeff.
Okay.
Because you can go down the second column and you can say, okay, these are EXP212s or whatever.
Yes.
And then you look at the date commencing.
Yeah.
So if it's obviously starting in February, presumably that one's done and dusted.
Date finished. Yep. So this little grey thing here, I think, hang on, I'm just going to blow this up and make it a little bit more readable for everyone. So that says Form C in status is grey, which I'm thinking means finished, as opposed to status green, which means, so this guy, Rebecca just finished, Amber just finished.
Yeah.
Or he's just finishing. So Amber's still on prac.
So I
right?
would, when we're off this big Zoom, you would simply liaise with Stephen for these and say, hey, according to my reading of this table, which you can then share with Stephen, we've got X, Y, and Z out. Is this what you understand?
Okay, good.
So and-so need to go. Where do they need to go?
Great. Yep. So this would be the one that you would suggest that Ian.
Yeah, keep this nice and rolling, and I think this will be great.
Well, I did promise Jeff that I'd protect his Excel spreadsheet. So what I might do is take the data, at least if I know if this is the most current data, I can put it back into this big schools one, which I can understand. He doesn't want to have to come back and bring everything up to speed. So, but if we know, Ian and I look at this one, this is the one that's good.
So that goes on to masters later, does it?
EXP. Yep.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to look at that. That's going to give me anxiety attack.
This says Jim to follow up. Jim to follow up. Follow up.
Jim has made special one-off deal here. See Jim. Jim will explain.
That's right. Yeah.
That's right. Take it away. Take it away.
All right. So, Ian, maybe what I'll try to do is to look at these things and pull them into something that's one file that we can use.
Yeah, that'd be good.
And then hopefully say, Ian, these are the people I think are still in school and you need to be chasing up to do pracs or...
Sure. Okay.
Yeah. Okay.
Yep, great. And can you also send me, when you were going through your questions, I was writing as many answers as I could, but I think I may have missed some. Can you send me?
I'll send you the update, as long as it was typing error and not spelling error for those things that are underlined red.
Sure, okay.
And then can I grab your phone number too, Ian, while we're...
Sure, 0421.
0421.
011.
Yep.
560.
Excellent. Thank you. What else do you do for fun, Ian?
At the moment, I'm doing some work with the Pacific Hills group of schools. So I'm currently rewriting their K-12 biblical studies programs for them.
Okay. Nice.
It's good. Yeah, it is good.
So if I ring at some time, I may, I just didn't know if you worked in the office and...
No, I tend to work from home.
Yep. Brilliant.
Okay. Well, I'll get this video to you, gents, and we must call that a day because it is. We're zoomed out.
Yep. You're on mute, then.
Dan, you're muted. Yeah.
Thank you very much for all your time and for answering all those questions. Really appreciate it. I know you're both super busy. All super busy. Sorry.
Well, look, make sure you look after yourself, Dan. My feeling is that in these next 2 weeks, we've got a bit of breathing space to catch our breath. There will be some students who probably get anxious, but in reality, we have got a fortnight-ish.
Yeah. Sweet. Thank you. Blessings.
Thank you. Bye all.
Thank you, Dan.
Okay.
Bye,
Thank you.
We will be in touch.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah,
Cheers.
we will.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Bye.